Russian marker combat robots are unlikely to be sent into the heavy battles taking place in Ukraine, the Russian state media announced testing in the country. On Sunday, Dmitry Rogozin, the head of the Tsar Wolf's military advisor group in Russia, said on his Telegram page that the combat robots would be tested out in the eastern Donbass region. Describing the move as a baptism of fire for the weapons, Rogozin said the platform would pinpoint and fire upon enemy targets. Samuel Bendet of the Center for Naval Analyses told that in the affected area with its own fire weapons. Bendet said that the idea of the AI-enabled combat robot is to replace a soldier in dangerous missions, and to make missions more effective. The marker is designed with the aim of analyzing and interpreting a situation, but the whole point of building such systems is to make them expendable. The Russian military has long discussed putting autonomous weapons in the place of human soldiers, according to Bendet. Yet Russia, and other countries like the United States and China, which are developing similar technologies, remain in the very initial stages of the process. Marker combat robots have been used as a security system for the Vostochny Cosmodrome in eastern Russia, providing control of its security perimeter. This security function lines up with test results made available in recent years, with markers performing defensive functions like guarding a military base in the style of a camera on tracks. Although Russian developers claim the marker had undergone tests in forested terrain to look at its ability to work autonomously in more combat-like environments, there was always the recognition that the technology isn't there yet. This type of UGV, unmanned ground vehicle, isn't ready to navigate on its own in a very complex battle space, Bendet said. So, even though marker developers have claimed that these vehicles can go on their own and maybe complete a series of relatively complicated tasks, they aren't necessarily going to be ready for the very complicated environment of a Ukraine battle space. Such an environment will present counterfire, interference, and other factors disrupting communication between the marker and its operator, he explained. Therefore, in these newly announced tests, there is some ambiguity in precisely what conditions the marker will be tested in. Bendet said the marker was unlikely to push towards Ukrainian positions due to a few design features making the combat robot vulnerable. He said that one of the interesting issues with developing vehicles like marker from scratch, as opposed to refitting already existing systems, is that marker is a relatively small and brittle system. It isn't necessarily very well protected. Bendet suggested that despite its touted advantages, the marker is poorly equipped to deal with attacks from large-caliber machine guns and rocket-propelled grenades, unlike the Russian military's larger, heavier unmanned vehicles, he said, and so, I have questions about putting marker in actual combat, as was claimed by Rogozin, although Rogozin said that several combat robots will be tested out in eastern Ukraine. Bendet said that because just a handful of markers are believed to exist, the developers in the Russian defense sector would feel the loss of even one quite acutely. This is the problem with most of Russian UGV development, he added. They have many different projects. They have many different concepts. But they exist as single prototypes, or maybe in the case of marker, there are 5 of them instead of 1. It's not like Russian developers have, say, 20, 30 or 50 of them, and they can maybe use a dozen in one expendable military mission. So I think this test would be relatively controlled in Ukraine. However, there may be a certain pressure bearing down on the Russian defense sector for new technologies as the war in Ukraine continues.